How can you help someone with suicidal thoughts?
You can help them by being supportive, first and foremost. Um, the most important thing to do, though, is get that person help. A lot of times, people who experience suicidal ideations are embarrassed. They think it's something to be ashamed of. And so, most likely, they won't reach out on their own. And so, you need to be that crutch, that support system, that person that's helping them to get the help that they need.
In your experience, what reason does teens give for wanting to commit suicide?
In my experience, the most common reason that's given is depression. And whether that depression is from stress, a traumatic life event, or um, something along those lines, it always leads back to depression.
Are there signs to look for? And if so, what are they?
There are signs to look for. Depression, like I said, is the most common sign that you can look for. If people begin to say things like they don't want to live anymore, the world would be a better place if they weren't alive, and things of that nature, that's alert, to go off. Means and intent. For example, if you have a friend or someone and they're talking to you and they say, "Oh, I want to kill myself," that's intent. But the means would be if they tell you exactly how they're going to kill themselves, when, for example, "Oh, I'm going to kill myself. My mom goes to work with a knife that's in the kitchen and the second drawer to the left." Then that's the means. They know exactly how they want to do it, when they're going to do it. So those are also signs to look for, and just being being conscious of the fact that people don't wear their feelings on their sleeves, especially when it comes to depression and suicide. Like I previously said, a lot of people think that it's something to be ashamed of. So it's not like you're gonna, see people walking around with, depression, loneliness, heartbreak on their sleeves. So just be really sensitive to the fact that people go through things that, they aren't willing to share, and you never know what somebody's going through.
In your experience, what age group is most frequent for the thoughts of suicide, and why do you think it's this age group?
In my experience, I have clients that range from 5 to 25. And I honestly could say that from 5 into 25, I've, dealt with clients who said that they wanted to take their own lives. The only client that I've had that actually attempted, the only two clients that I had that actually attempted were ages 18 and one was 16. And that's what I was talking about previously when I said means and intent. I deal with a lot of clients that say, "Oh, I just want to die," or "Oh, I just want to kill myself and the world will be a better place." Those are my two cases that they actually attempted. They actually have the means and they attempted to take their own lives. And they were ages, like I said, 16 and 18.
Do you think social media has a big impact on the suicide rate?
I do. I do. I believe that teens nowadays, they take to social media to express their feelings. If they have an issue with someone, instead of going to that person and trying to resolve it, they put it on the World Wide Web.
In your experience, how many suicides have you dealt with in the last year, and how did it affect you?
I've never directly had a client commit suicide. However, I had a coworker whose client committed suicide within the past year, and for the agency as a whole, it directed us very deeply because you could go through the counseling and the treatments, but you could never fully prepare yourself from something like this. And it was just that type of situation where it was unexpected, and there actually were no signs, according to the counselors who were servicing the person who took their own life. So, yeah, it had a very great effect and just made me, as a counselor, um, just want to work harder to try to reach my clients and help them. And it's a situation where you have to understand that you can't help everyone. However, it still affects you all the same.
Okay. What percentage of people actually act upon suicide?
The last time that I researched these statistics, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, between 50 and 75% of people who commit suicide have planned the act before they actually do it.
Is it possible to stop suicidal thoughts, and if so, how?
Yes, it is very possible. It all comes back to seeking that professional help. I know it sounds like a cycle, but it's a very worthwhile cycle to take. Healthcare professionals know whether this person needs to be hospitalized, where he has a higher level of professional care, he or she has a higher level of professional care to assist them through this process, or sometimes there are medications that the psychiatrist may prescribe that will help those people experiencing suicidal ideations to get those thoughts and feelings under control.
How should you go about talking to a suicide patient?
In my opinion, unless you are a mental health counselor, you really shouldn't get into too many details with that person about their suicidal ideations, because it is a very sensitive matter that needs professional attention. And so if you have, for example, a friend or a family member who comes to you and tells you that they are experiencing suicidal ideations, then you should seek help for that person right away. So as far as what should you say, you should say whatever you need to, just like I said, very lightly, to get them to seek help.
Does suicide comes from mental illness, physical, or emotional?
Suicide can actually come from all three. Mental illness is one of the leading causes of suicide. If you have a history of mental illness in your family, that could be passed along to you. Physically, say someone battling with cancer, and they're losing a lot of weight, they're physically just drained, their body's hurting and aching. I've never experienced any, but I've read about lots of cases where those people will take their lives just to, not necessarily because they want to die, just because the pain is so overbearing that they choose to take their own lives. Emotionally, that goes back to, like depression. To me, a lot of people have trouble with, when things happen, when traumatic life events happen, they have trouble with going through the motions to get over those things. They're not used to dealing with those feelings, and so therefore they feel like their only option is to take their own life.